going? I'm Amanda from Amanda Around the Globe, and today I am so excited to tell you guys the pros and cons of traveling through Vietnam. I should have prefaced this video by saying this is completely my own experience here. I've been in Vietnam for like 2.5 weeks now, and this is all based on my personal experience. The first pro of traveling through Vietnam is it is freaking beautiful. It's so pretty here. There is such beautiful nature, waterfalls, mountains, beaches. Vietnam has it all. My favorite place in Vietnam so far has been Hoi An, which is a tiny little city filled with lanterns. It's so cute, it's so photogenic. It has great food, like, oh, I'm obsessed. But one of the cons of traveling through Vietnam is obviously there's a language barrier, and Vietnamese is not an easy language to speak. Even some of the words that I have learned, I cannot say them with the proper accent. The Vietnamese people have no idea what I'm saying. And that can make it difficult, especially when you're in more rural areas and you are a vegan. It's hard to explain what vegan is if you don't speak the language at all. But overall, I have not had any major issues. I've just had a few incidents where like I'll order one thing and they'll bring me something else, which has always been kind of funny. It's never been like I've gotten meat or anything. A pro of traveling through Vietnam is that it's really, really easy to get around and to travel. There's really, really good transportation. You can use public transportation, you can use trains, buses. I've done it all here. I've rented a motorbike to get around in Hoi An and to go around the beaches over there. I've taken overnight sleeper buses, I've taken tourist buses, I've taken local buses. All of them are relatively cheap and very inexpensive. The 15-hour bus ride I took was like $15. The local buses will usually cost you like $1 or $2. A con of Vietnam is that as a tourist, obviously they can tell I'm not a local, I'm white. And I tend to sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I will get charged foreigner prices, which is one of my biggest pet peeves about traveling, is when the locals will charge tourists or foreigners different prices than they charge the locals. I think it's completely unfair. I understand that they think we're coming here with a lot of money, but one of the reasons I chose to travel in Vietnam right now is because I'm trying to not spend a ton of money, so it can be really frustrating when I get on the bus and they charge me twice as much as the Vietnamese person sitting next to me. A pro of Vietnam, pretty cheap to travel here. Meals are really inexpensive. I try to go to as many local restaurants as I can. The best thing about those is that there's really, really good food. It's all local. There's a ton of vegan restaurants and it's so cheap. It's like 20,000 dong for a buffet meal, which is less than $1 US. I really, really like a lot of foods here. There are some dishes that I've become obsessed with, specifically the tofu. They make like a tofu and tomato dish, which is, oh my God, it's so good. A pro of traveling through Vietnam is that it's really, really easy for vegans. I have found so many completely vegan restaurants, which make the language barrier a lot easier because when you go there, you know it's vegan. People have asked me how I'm finding vegan food here, and I just want to mention, not sponsored at all, but I would love to be sponsored by them. I use Happy Cow, which is an app that will show you vegan and vegetarian restaurants in the area. So it shows you local restaurants and places that have vegan options. So some of those will be Western restaurants. And I've even learned the word for vegetarian is chai, C-H-A-Y. I can't say it in a Vietnamese accent, so the Vietnamese people still don't know what I'm talking about when I use that word. But usually if you find a restaurant that has that word in it, then it will be at least vegetarian. A pro is that it can be quite a culture shock to come to Vietnam. If you are from a Western country and you come to Southeast Asia and you've never been here before, it can be very different because of things like squat toilets. The driving, like the rules are, there are no rules is what it seems like to me, because people run red lights, people drive on the wrong side of the road, people drive on the sidewalk, like it's just crazy. And that can be difficult to get used to. Even crossing the street can be stressful. It stressed me out a few times at the beginning, but I'm used to it now. Just the way that people live here is completely different from the Western culture, and I think that's a big pro because Part of the reason I love traveling is to see how other people live, and a lot of the people in Vietnam are so friendly and so happy, and it's crazy to come here and see that they live so differently than the Western culture, but they're so much happier, I think. Another con is that there's plastic everywhere. They use plastic for everything. There's a lot of plastic straws. There is a lot of plastic cups, a lot of plastic bags. I always refuse the plastic bags, but sometimes even when I'm getting like a coffee for here, it'll still come in a plastic cup, and that irritates me a lot because I try not to use a lot of plastic in my life, and I try to avoid it as much as I can. And with the language barrier, it can be very hard to tell them I don't want a straw or I don't want any plastic. So another pro is that the beaches in some areas, not in the really popular tourist areas, but in some areas that I've been to, you can find completely empty beaches, and it's amazing. I went to Quy Nhon, which is not a big tourist destination. It is a beachy town, and I went there, and every single day during the day there would be no one on the beach until the sun started going down. Then people would start coming out. Pro, there's a lot of hidden gems in Vietnam. There's a lot of places you can go where there's not a lot of tourists, and that's amazing. Con is that the air pollution in Vietnam is very, very bad, especially in the big cities like Hanoi. When I was in Hanoi, I started getting sick. I got headaches, I got congestion in my throat, I got a sore throat. Like, it was not good, and I recommend if you travel in Vietnam to try not to spend a lot of time in the big cities, just because it can seems to me to be very unhealthy to be breathing that in all the time. And to be honest, most of the best parts of Vietnam are the tinier cities, in my opinion. I'm just gonna say one last pro of Vietnam is that, I kind of mentioned this before, but the Vietnamese people are super, super friendly. I have had such good experience with the Vietnamese people. They are so helpful. I have had so many people offer to help me find where I'm going. A lot of people will say hello to me. People are just really, really nice and sweet here, and I have really appreciated that. So this is all the pros and cons of traveling in Vietnam. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, bye!